Yeah, holy smokes. My name's Connor. I've been here at Welding Academy as an instructor for 3 years. Today we're gonna see what your welds are worth. We got a stick weld here from Hunter, who's 21 years old. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, really it's a pretty good weld. It looks like an open root horizontal plate. I think Hunter's ready to go out into the workforce and make some welds because I don't see much wrong with it. Structural is usually a pretty low pay. It's usually in like the mid-20s. If you get really good at it, then you can get up into the $30 an hour structural. Probably gonna have a hard time rig welding to really like boost the wages there. So maybe start practicing on pipe now. I think he's ready for pipe. Yeah, I'd probably pay this welder $25 an hour for the structural. But if it was wrapped around a piece of pipe, then I'd probably pay him quite a bit more because it's a good weld, $45 an hour. Now we got Cooper who's welding on flux core. Let's go take a look at it. So Cooper, your weld looks really nice. It's nice and straight, but it's pretty easy to do with flux core. It looked like the toe lines could use a little bit of more heat on them. Looks like they're sweating in pretty cold on the toe lines, so make sure to turn that voltage up and maybe turn your wire speed down a little bit. It doesn't look like it's open root. It looks kind of like a fillet. So there's really not much value in a weld like that. That's a really good weld. It's nice and straight, but the toe lines seem like they're not sweating in very much. If you could turn down the heat or turn down the wire speed a little bit, that would really help out with the integrity of that weld. It's not an open root and it's not wrapped around a piece of pipe, so it's also not worth very much. If you could get it to wrap around a vessel or something like that, you could probably get quite a bit more money out of it. But as it stands, it's probably only a $20 an hour weld right there. Yeah, definitely would recommend that you turn down the wire speed a little bit or turn up your heat a little bit, and then really check the angle that have your wire aimed at that puddle. Get those edges to get nice and smooth so they don't have like a square edge where they don't tie into the pass below it. Next up on the list, we have a stick welder named Connor. Let's go check it out. Definitely need to turn down the heat. You definitely need to get a tighter arc. I wouldn't do any circles or anything. I would just go completely straight and see if you can get your toe lines to look a little nicer. It looks like all the welds underneath of the 3 welds on top are kind of messing everything up. When you start to see that really pointy shape in your puddle, that means you're going too fast. And when you start to get those really messed up toe lines, that is most likely coming from a long arc. So these welds are essentially worthless unless you're going to be hard facing on a piece of equipment, and that pays like somewhere around $17 an hour. So keep on practicing and see if you can get those things a little straighter and a little nicer. Yeah, sorry man, I'm not gonna pay a dime for this. You could go to applytoweld.com and we'll teach you how to get welds that are worth money. Okay, now we're gonna switch over to TIG and take a look at Brady's weld. I'm not entirely sure that he's even welding on steel, but here's some ground rules. Make sure that you clean the plate all the way off, all of the mill scale, and if that is steel, it's kind of hard to tell. Make sure you clean everything off so it's just shiny white metal. And once you dip the tungsten, make sure that you swap it out for a new fresh tungsten, and then get the tip of the tungsten way, way closer to the plate. This is very, very much entry-level weld. If you paid me, I would give you plate to keep practicing on, but I definitely don't want you on my job. I'm giving this weld $0. Now we're gonna switch over to MIG with Caden. He's 15 and this is his first weld ever. The weld itself looks really nice, but the plate is awful, so you can tell that you didn't put any effort into cleaning off the plate, and we don't want any rust in the weld or any of that dirty stuff. You could definitely turn down the wire speed a little bit. The edges of your weld where they're starting to flatten out and flare up, that whole edge of the weld is not fused into the plate. That's gonna show up on an x-ray or an ultrasound, so we need to get rid of that. Other than that, it's looking really nice, man. Keep on practicing and start cleaning your plate a lot better. Well, Caden, I could see you getting into structural or welding on trailers, but right now it's about minimum wage, so like 15 bucks an hour. This is Matthias. He's 16 years old, and this is his second weld ever. It looks like there's somebody around you who's really good at welding, who's been TIG welding, so you should definitely get some advice from them on how to stick weld. Your weld looks pretty good. It just looks like you need to work on maintaining the same speed throughout the entire weld. Just remember that stick welding is all about consistency. So it can be a little bit big or a little bit small, but it needs to be the same all the way through. You don't want to go from a little bit big to a little bit small in the same weld. Your speed looks good. maybe a little bit slow. Definitely need to get friendly with a wire wheel and clean that thing off. We don't want any weld spatter or smoke around the weld either. So yeah, you have some potential. I would definitely get you in on a training program, but the weld's not worth any money till it's perfect. So I'm gonna give this weld $0 an hour because it doesn't really apply to anything. If you could put it on a piece of pipe or get 2 pieces of plate stuck together with it, then it would be worth a little bit of money. Next up we got Jacob. He's 16 years old and he's a stick welder. The absolute no-no in welding is a slag inclusion. And if you leave a little bit of the slag on the cap, that counts as a slag inclusion. Definitely need to put a little more effort into cleaning it up, buffing all the slag off the weld. When you see a weld like this where it's actually a really nice weld, but it's just dirty all around it, it speaks to a pretty poor work ethic. So Jacob, if you don't want to present yourself as somebody having a poor work ethic, definitely put more effort into cleaning up the weld and cleaning up the plate around the weld. The weld will look a lot nicer. So overall, it's not a bad weld. I could see you welding on tanks or welding anything that doesn't really involve pressure. I'd give it about $25 an hour. Make sure you clean the slag off that weld. So next up we have Jet. He's a MIG welder. He's 34 years old. Should at 34 years old know that you can't leave spatter and BBs all over your weld. Doesn't look like you prepped that material before you used it either. You can see those rust veins and all the mill scale goes all the way down into the weld. Yeah, I think you guys should probably get a little better QC around your shop and maybe start taking a little more pride in your work. I can tell that you have experience. You definitely can make a nice weld, but you can't stop halfway through the job. I'd give this weld $27 an hour because you could definitely build a flatbed with it, or you could do any structural that you didn't really care if it held together, because this process isn't a legit process for most structural welds. Listen, Jet, I know you said you don't need welding school and that you learn this all on your own, but if you want to learn from the professionals, go to pt.3 and get your butt over here. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you want to see more of this, make sure to check us out on other socials and make sure to click the subscribe button. And we'll see you next time.